Welcome to today's deep dive. Ready to tackle something we all think about, personal finance.
Oh, definitely. I think sometimes it feels like a maze, don't you think?
Absolutely. And that's why we're using this pasted text today to break down these 8 financial curses. We'll see how they might be impacting you and figure out how to break free.
Sounds like we're going on a treasure hunt. But the treasure is financial well-being.
I love that.
Oh.
Okay, let's get started with the first one. The debt trap. I think we all know how easy this one is to fall into.
Right. Unfortunately, yes. It's that feeling of constantly running in place financially, isn't it? Where you're always borrowing just to stay afloat.
So it's not just about having debt, it's about relying on credit, right? Like
Yeah.
it becomes a cycle.
Exactly. And the source says over-leveraging is often the root cause. People take on more debt than they can really handle. Especially with those high interest rates, things can quickly spiral. Imagine a $10,000 loan at 20% interest. You're already starting $2,000 in the hole.
Ouch. That's a pretty harsh reality check. So how do we climb out of this trap? The source talks about the debt avalanche method. But is that always the best way?
Well, it's a good place to start. The idea is to focus on paying off the debt with the highest interest first. Think of it like this. If you have 2 loans, one at 5% and another at 20%, every dollar you put towards that higher interest loan saves you more money in the long run.
Makes sense. But to really tackle debt, you also need a budget, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Budgeting isn't about restricting yourself. It's about understanding where your money goes so you can make choices. It's really the foundation for breaking free from relying on credit.
And speaking of spending habits, the next curse on the list is lifestyle inflation. It's so easy to fall into this one, especially as your income grows.
It's that classic keeping up with the Joneses scenario. When you earn more, you upgrade your lifestyle. But without increasing your savings or investments?
So even if you're making more money, you could still be living paycheck to paycheck if you're not careful.
Exactly. And that's why clear financial goals are so important. Saving for a down payment, early retirement, even just a comfy emergency fund. Having a target helps you resist that temptation to inflate your lifestyle with every raise.
Great point. It's about being intentional with your money, making sure your spending matches your long-term goals.
Precisely. Our next curse might hit home for some people more than others. It's the lack of financial literacy. I'm curious, have you ever felt intimidated by all the financial jargon, all the concepts?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes it feels like a completely foreign language.
Yeah,
But the source says lots of people struggle with the basics. It's not something we're taught in school.
that's true. And this lack of knowledge can lead to mistakes, costly ones. But the good news is there are so many resources out there now to boost your financial IQ. The source mentions Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but there are podcasts, websites, online courses, you name it.
So it's really about taking that first step
Right.
and seeking out information.
Exactly. The more you understand about things like budgeting, investing, debt management, the better decisions you'll make.
Speaking of decisions, let's move on to poor investment decisions, the 4th curse. This one can be painful. Losing hard-earned money is never fun.
It's true. And so easy to get caught up in the hype, especially with all those get-rich-quick schemes out there.
I think lots of people make emotional investment decisions driven by fear or greed. They don't understand the risks involved.
That's a great point. And that's where diversification comes in. Instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, spreading your investments across different assets, stocks, bonds, real estate can reduce risk.
Okay, but diversification can be a bit overwhelming. Where do you even start?
Well, think about your risk tolerance first and your investment timeline. Are you okay with short-term ups and downs in the market, or do you prefer a more conservative approach? A financial advisor can help you create a plan based on your needs and goals.
So it's not one size fits all. Getting professional guidance can really help.
Absolutely. And speaking of guidance, let's tackle over-reliance on a single income source. This one's about recognizing that having all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, when it comes to your income, well, it's risky.
It's a good reminder to ask yourself, what if something happens to your main job? What's your backup?
Exactly. Building a financial safety net should be a top priority. And the best way to do that is by creating multiple income streams. Think freelancing, side hustles, investing, even real estate.
So it's not just about earning more, it's about diversifying where that income comes from.
Exactly. Having multiple streams creates a cushion, so if one dries up, you're not left struggling. And of course, let's not forget an emergency fund. Aim for at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved in a liquid account.
Solid goal. Okay, curse number 6, succumbing to scams and fraud. This one makes me so mad. It's amazing how many people fall for those get-rich-quick schemes or online scams.
It's really unfortunate how common they are, but awareness is key. The source emphasizes due diligence and skepticism. Always verify the legitimacy of any investment or advisor before handing over your money.
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Are there any red flags we should look out for?
Absolutely. Promises of guaranteed returns, pressure to invest quickly, requests for personal info through unsecured channels. Do your research, check online reviews, and if something feels off, trust your gut.
Good advice. Now, curse number 7 is a bit counterintuitive. Inheritance or lottery curse. Wouldn't getting a lot of money suddenly be amazing?
It seems that way, doesn't it? But you'd be surprised how often that kind of sudden wealth leads to financial ruin if it's not handled well.
So it's not the money itself, but the lack of preparedness.
Exactly. Many lottery winners or people who inherit money don't know how to handle a large sum responsibly. They might overspend, make bad investments, or even fall for scams.
It's like being thrown into the deep end of a pool without knowing how to swim.
Great analogy. This is when a financial advisor can be crucial. They can help you create a long-term plan. Think budgeting, investing, even estate planning.
So even if you suddenly become a millionaire, you still need financial planning.
More important than ever, it's about making sure your newfound wealth works for you long-term instead of vanishing quickly. Let's move on to the final curse for this part. Fear of investing. Paralysis by analysis. This one stops people from using one of the best tools for building wealth.
I think a lot of people are intimidated by the stock market, especially with how much it's been fluctuating lately.
Absolutely. But you don't have to be a Wall Street expert to start.
So what's a good first step if you're feeling overwhelmed?
Start small. You don't need a huge sum right away. Start with an amount you're comfortable with and gradually increase it. Maybe consider a low-cost index fund. It tracks a market index like the S&P 500. It's a pretty passive way to get started. You don't have to pick individual stocks.
And that aligns with the diversification we talked about earlier, right? Spreading the risk.
Exactly. The point is to take action and start building that investing muscle. Time is your biggest asset when it comes to investing. The sooner you start, the more time your money has to grow.
This has been so insightful. We've covered 8 financial curses and some potential solutions. What stands out to you the most so far? Welcome back to our deep dive into financial pitfalls and how to escape them. We've covered a lot of ground already. It's been quite a journey. What do you think?
It has. We've gone through 8 financial curses, and they can feel overwhelming for sure.
Absolutely. But the good news is the source doesn't just point out the problems. It offers advice on how to break free.
That's what makes it so valuable, right? It gives us solutions, not just problems.
Okay, so let's unpack those solutions. What are the main takeaways for breaking these financial curses?
The source really highlights 3 things: building good financial habits, educating yourself, and staying disciplined.
Sounds straightforward. But I imagine putting those into practice is a different story.
You're right. It's not about changing everything overnight. It's more about those gradual changes to your mindset, your behavior, to make it sustainable.
So let's start with habits. What kind are we talking about? Is it just creating a budget and sticking to it?
Budgeting is definitely important, but it's not about restricting yourself. It's more about creating a system that works for you, like automating your savings, tracking expenses, regularly checking your progress towards your goals.
So being proactive rather than reactive with your money.
Exactly. Take control instead of letting your finances control you. Imagine knowing where your money's going each month and making choices about your spending based on what's important to you.
It sounds empowering. But what about those of us who struggle with impulse buys? Emotional spending.
That's where discipline comes in. Delaying gratification. Making those small sacrifices today for big rewards later.
Easier said than done, I'm sure. Any tips for actually cultivating that discipline?
One thing that helps is an accountability partner. Someone you share your goals with, who will check in on your progress.
Like a workout buddy, but for finances.
Exactly. Someone to support you and keep you motivated. And another good strategy, focus on the why. Why are these goals important? What will achieving them allow you to do?
Visualizing the end result can be really motivating, reminding yourself why you're putting in the work.
Exactly. Connect those everyday actions to your long-term dreams.
Now let's switch gears a bit to financial education. We talked about this before with the lack of financial literacy curse.
What specific financial knowledge do you think is essential for everyone to grasp,
Well, the basics are crucial. Budgeting, saving, investing, but also understanding debt, credit scores, even taxes.
That's a lot. Where can people even learn about all that? We've mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Any other recommendations?
Tons. Books, podcasts, websites, online courses. Find something that works for you, that explains things clearly and simply.
So no excuses for staying in the dark anymore. Exactly. The information is out there. Just be willing to learn. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask a financial advisor or a friend who knows their stuff.
Be proactive. Advocate for your own financial well-being.
Exactly. Let's move on to that third pillar, staying disciplined. We've covered some strategies, but it's important to remember, discipline is an ongoing process. It's not something you achieve once and you're done.
So it's not about being perfect all the time. More about getting back on track when you stumble.
Exactly. Setbacks are normal. Don't let them derail you.
That's reassuring. But how can we build that resilience? Stay motivated even with challenges.
Breaking down your goals into smaller steps can help. It makes the whole process feel less overwhelming, more achievable.
So instead of aiming to save $10,000, maybe start with $100 per week.
Exactly. Celebrate those smaller wins as you go, and don't be afraid to adjust your plan if you need to.
Being flexible, adapting.
Precisely. Discipline isn't about depriving yourself. It's about making choices that support your values, your long-term goals. Saying yes to the things that matter and no to those that don't.
Creating a life of financial abundance, not scarcity.
Exactly. Before we finish this part, I want to mention one more thing the source emphasizes. Mindset.
Mindset. How does that tie into finances?
Your thoughts and beliefs about money, they can really influence your decisions, your outcomes. The source talks about shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
That sounds kind of abstract. Can you explain?
Sure. A scarcity mindset. It's all about fear, lack, limitation, believing there's never enough money, that you're always struggling.
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Sadly, yes. And that kind of mindset can lead to bad habits, overspending, hoarding, impulsive decisions out of fear.
So what's the alternative? What does an abundance mindset look like?
It's about gratitude, possibility, growth, believing there's enough for everyone, that you can create wealth, that opportunities are everywhere.
It's not just about having more money. It's about changing how you think about it.
Exactly. Money's a tool to build the life you want. It shouldn't control you.
It's about taking back your power.
Precisely. And this mindset shift can impact your whole life, not just your bank account.
That's powerful. So breaking free from these financial curses, it's not just about rules. It's about building a healthy relationship with money.
Absolutely. Becoming more aware, more intentional in what you do and how you think.
This has been eye-opening. We've explored those three pillars: habits, education, discipline, and how our mindset plays a role.
And remember, it's a journey, not a race. Just keep making progress. Don't let setbacks stop you.
Speaking of progress, in the last part of our deep dive, we'll revisit those 8 financial curses. We'll look at specific strategies to tackle each one head-on. Ready to keep going?
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. Time to conquer those financial curses right.
Yep. We've laid the foundation, those 3 pillars: habits, education, and discipline, plus that mindset shift. Now let's get tactical. Let's go back to each curse and give you some real strategies.
Sounds good. Let's start with that debt trap, the one that can feel the heaviest. We talked about the debt avalanche, but what are some other things people can try?
Yeah, for those people who feel totally overwhelmed, just opening their bills, where do they even begin?
One thing people don't always think about is negotiating with creditors. You'd be surprised how often they're willing to work with you, especially if you're proactive and show you're serious about paying.
So it's about communication, taking responsibility, not avoiding those bills.
Exactly. You might be able to lower interest rates, get late fees waived, or even create a payment plan that works. And don't forget debt consolidation, combining multiple debts into one loan with a better interest rate.
That can definitely make things simpler and potentially save some money. All right, let's move on to lifestyle inflation. I think this one's even more relevant now with prices going up and all the tempting things around us.
It's keeping up with the Joneses on steroids, with social media adding fuel to the fire. The key here is really mindful spending. Before you buy something, just pause, ask yourself, do I need this? Or am I just caught up in the moment?
Sometimes we buy things for emotional reasons, right? To fill a void, to impress others, not because we actually need them.
Absolutely. Delaying gratification is so powerful. Wait a few weeks, or even a few months before that impulse buy. You might find the urge goes away, or you've had time to save for it.
Giving ourselves that space really helps. Now, what about lack of financial literacy? I think this is a big one that keeps people from reaching their goals.
It can be hard to know where to even start. But remember, learning about finances takes time. It's not a sprint. Start with those basics. Budgeting, saving, investing. There are so many free resources online, articles, videos, even interactive tools.
And don't be afraid to reach out for help. A financial advisor, a friend who's good with money, they can point you in the right direction.
Exactly. The more you know, the better. Now, poor investment decisions. I think this one can be scary for people, especially those who don't feel comfortable with the stock market.
Yeah, that fear of losing money or making a bad choice is real. How can people approach investing with more confidence?
The most important thing is diversification. Spread your investments. Don't put everything in one place. Think about stocks, bonds, real estate. Also, look into dollar cost averaging. It's where you invest a set amount at regular intervals.
So you're not trying to predict the market. You're just investing consistently no matter what happens short term.
Exactly. More discipline, less emotion. And if you're feeling lost, a financial advisor can be a huge help.
They can tailor a plan to your risk tolerance and goals. Okay, over-reliance on a single income source. This one feels super important these days, with jobs changing so much.
Right. Multiple income streams aren't a luxury anymore. They're essential. Think about your skills, your passions. What could you offer as a freelancer? Could you turn your hobby into something more? There are so many opportunities out there now.
It's about using what you're good at and creating that safety net for yourself.
Exactly. And passive income is worth exploring too. Dividends, stocks, rental properties. These can bring in money without constant work.
Now that's the dream. All right, let's talk about succumbing to scams and fraud. This one always makes me nervous. How could we protect ourselves with so many scams out there?
Skepticism is key. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Always verify. Any advisor, any investment platform, make sure they're legitimate before giving them your money.
What are some warning signs people should look for?
Guaranteed returns, pressure to invest quickly, random offers that come out of nowhere. Those are all big red flags. Do your research, check reviews, trust your gut.
Being alert and protecting your money is so important. Now, onto that inheritance or lottery curse. It reminds us that sudden wealth can be just as tricky as not having enough.
Absolutely. If you suddenly come into a lot of money, get professional help. A financial advisor can help you create a plan, budgeting, investing, even estate planning.
So it's not just about spending wisely, it's about making that money last and grow.
Exactly. They can help you avoid those emotional decisions that could hurt you financially. And finally, let's address fear of investing. Paralysis by analysis. So many people get stuck overthinking and never taking action.
It can be overwhelming, right? Knowing where to even begin.
Remember, you don't need to be an expert to invest. Start small. Put a manageable amount into something low risk, like an index fund. As you learn more, you can get more comfortable and expand your portfolio.
Take that first step and build from there.
Exactly. And time is on your side. The earlier you start, the more time that money has to work its magic.
This has been such a valuable deep dive. We've explored 8 financial pitfalls, but more importantly, we've given you some real tools to overcome them.
Remember, financial well-being is a journey. Make smart choices, keep learning, and take action.
And don't forget your mindset. That positive attitude towards money can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope you feel empowered to take control of your financial future.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. See you next time.